Are we actually shifting? Is it a phenomenon? Let's find out. Hey Gaspers, welcome back to Gasp, the podcast for the gays, the girls, and especially the gay girls. Remember last episode when I was like, oh my god, this is like my last episode in my New York City apartment? I lied. Like, that was the last episode for that set. But like, if you're watching this on YouTube, you will see that things have been taken down. I am moving things out. My room is like pretty much empty. So this is actually the last episode I'll have in my apartment. That one was the last one for the set. I literally move out tomorrow. So we have a little bit of a different format going on here. What are we talking about today, you ask? We're talking about the Pop Girlie takeover over the last 2 years. And specifically, the little problem that's emerging in the pop girly community. I will tell you what that is because I realize that the title doesn't like explain what the problem is. The problem is racism and misogyny. Let's get into it. For those who tuned in last episode, I pretty much was saying that I'm moving to DC to move in with my girlfriend. This podcast is continuing. Don't worry. You're just going to move with me. I think I'm going to do some like moving vlogs. I'm not usually a vlogger. A few years ago when I started TikToking, I started like doing like day in the life and like get readies with me. And like, I don't really feel like they caught on. Maybe I just didn't have like that aesthetic of a life, but they did not catch on. So, but I kind of feel like I want to bring it back. In terms of like housekeeping for this podcast, I have a very exciting guest joining me next week. Also, I'm sure you guys know this already, but on my Patreon, I started a new series called On the Rumor Mill. It's a bonus series, so you do have to subscribe to be able to get that content. I'm also going to add it on Spotify subscriptions, and I have one episode out right now. We talk about like rumors, obviously on the rumor mill, and I give my 2 cents on if I think that they're true or false. So go check that out. Subscribe on Patreon, subscribe on YouTube, do all the things. And speaking of Patreon, I need to shout out my weekly shout out to my special number one Gaspers, my subscription members. So thank you so much to Monique F for being a subscription member and being a number one Gasper. You're the fucking best. And thank you so much for joining. Oh, and lastly, of course, merch is still available. Let me know if you have any ideas for what I should do for Pride merch, but I'm already starting to craft this up because we're really going to need Pride Month this year to keep us sane and normal. So I'm like really hyped up for Pride this year. I hope you guys are too. All right, let's get into the topic. Today we're talking about the pop girlies and their issue. And not necessarily their issue, but rather stan culture and the pop girly culture's issue, right? That is a little teensy little bit of racism and misogyny, and in some cases, a lot of it. Specifically, what are we going to talk about? We're going to talk about the takeover of pop girly culture over the last 2 years. We're going to talk about how the culture centers white girls, of course. We're going to talk about racism within the fan base, misogyny within the fan bases, misogyny and like pitting women against each other that I feel is a resurgence, but maybe has just existed the entire time. And Cowboy Carter controversy. And this is really what made me want to do this episode, right? And then finally, the strictness of genres. And of course, in every episode, there's going to be an LGBTQ element, right? Okay, let's talk about Pop Girlie takeover. The takeover that everyone's been talking about. So over the last few years, the girlies have pretty much taken over the entire industry. Let's name a few. So the ones that we all know have stayed releasing albums. And then there's been this like rise of so many new pop stars, and maybe aren't even new, but like this sudden rise to like popular fame that they've all had fan bases over the last like 5 to 10-ish years, but like in the last 2 years have gotten so big. So the ones that like we all know and love that have stayed here, that have been here for a while. Taylor Swift, obviously. Dua Lipa, Doja Cat, Miley Cyrus, Lady Gaga, Ariana Grande, SZA, Beyonce. Now, of course, there's more like Katy Perry, like Selena Gomez, etc. But I want to talk about these people because these are the girlies that have like continuously been releasing albums and have made the field crowded, right? It's not like they take 5 years off and they're not like releasing an album that doesn't get nominated. Like all these people are like, they're active. And then, of course, we have these newbie stars that, like, all of a sudden have had this, like, huge rise to fame. Like, this is Charlie XCX, Sabrina Carpenter, Olivia Rodrigo, Gracie Abrams, Tate McRae, Chappell Roan, Billie Eilish. She's young, so it's only been, like, a few years of her having this, like, massive fame. Addison Rae, Tyla, Renee Rapp, Victoria Monet. Like, all of these stars have very specific and active fan bases that are very passionate about them. And this is a crowded fucking space. It's kind of insane how many girlies are like constantly releasing amazing music. Doechii. And some of these people too dip into like R&B and like other types of music, but like are just very popular right now. This is from The Telegraph, and like when you look up like Pop Girlies taking over, there's so many articles here. The Telegraph says the end of the old boys club, how women took over pop music. Coog Radio says the resurgence of pop music and how the girls are dominating the scene. The New Yorker says it's the summer of girly pop. That was from 2024, Brat Summer, right? So we're aware of this female takeover, right? Has that actually impacted our culture? Is the question. Is it showing that we're like having progress in terms of like valuing women artists, girls in pop, and female listeners? Or is it just like disguising issues that are still there? I think the latter. And I do think there's an impact, right, of like women being on the prominent stage, but that doesn't mean like when racism and like homophobia like ended. And I think that Beyonce winning the album of the year kind of like exposed the misogyny that still exists, the racism that still exists, and these deeper issues that like just because you are a fan of a liberal girly pop icon queen doesn't mean you're like liberal or an accepting person, which is like a tough pill to swallow. Are we actually shifting? Is it a phenomenon? Let's find out. Like, I think it's just such a crazy shift between like 2024 Brat Summer and then like Trump being elected. Like, it felt like our society was like valuing women and like it was like the summer for girls, and then it all shifted. And it's like, is it actually a shift, or was there never actually that much change behind us just being like, oh my God, girly pops? You know, the numbers of fans that support these artists, if they actually were like as progressive as the artists, we might actually be in a better culture. But it's like this weird realization where it's like, oh my God, are there like Trump supporters being like Brat Summer? And I think like, yeah, which is so scary, right? Like, we need more than just a phenomenon and just being like, oh my God, girls. Like, if we want to be like pro girl movement, pro pop girly movement, that means we're pro LGBTQ rights in action. That means we're like feminist in action. That means like we're like not racist in action. And it's like all these actual pop stars are that way, but it seems like their fans maybe aren't. And like in 2025 and in 2024, we had mostly women being nominated when it came to the pop awards, right? So like in 2025, best pop solo performance, all women nominated. Best pop duo and group performance, all women nominated. Best pop vocal album, all women nominated. In 2024, best pop solo performance, all women nominated. Best pop duo performance, women were in each group, same thing with 2025. Best pop vocal album, there was only one man and it was like Ed Sheeran, which like doesn't count. But like, this is an obvious shift. At this point, pop music is girly pop music, and like the women are the ones being like, yeah, we're pop music. And it's like, has that even had a real shift on our culture? Like, maybe it hasn't, as much as maybe we thought, right? Literally, Harper's Bazaar said in 2024, the women of pop dominated the Spotify charts in 2024. For the first time ever, the top 5 albums of the year were all female artists. Like, we're seeing this culture shift this past year with Brat Summer again, like Taylor Swift, the Eras tour, and all of this like Barbie movie, and all of this focus on like women dominating it. And perhaps the women that were like part of this movement didn't get the memo that that also is like political. Or was there so much of a backlash that it pushed like Trump to win? You know what I mean? Because like music is political. Okay, let's talk about how pop girly culture centers white women. Okay, AP News says in 2024 that, quote, due to a shift of streaming activity in the second half of the year, pop took the #1 spot. Female solo artists led the surge in pop consumption as streams of their music were responsible for nearly 2/3 of all audio streams amongst the top 100 pop artists in the US. And the shift was led by specifically 6 women. Who were those 6 women? Mostly white girls. Taylor Swift, #1. #2, Billie Eilish. #3, Sabrina Carpenter. #4, Ariana Grande. Top 4, all white. #5, Olivia Rodrigo. And Olivia is half Filipina. 6, Chappell Roan. So 5 out of 6 of these people are white girls. Now, it's not their fault that they're like successful, and they don't need to be less successful, but it is interesting when like the push of a phenomenon is white women, they're gonna have white women fans, and these white women, as we know, vote for Trump. It's this guise of like feminism, and it's like, are their fans really as feminist as like we think that the movement is? Like, when pop is dominating and girlies are dominating pop, and the white girls are specifically dominating in this category, we can't forget that gender is like not the only thing at play here. And this is great for women. It really is. I don't want to like make it seem like I think that this is like bad for women. But with the culture of Pop Girlie Summer, and there's like this guise of progress and like, oh my God, women are like winning in the world, right? That's what it kind of felt like. Does it allow subtle and like very much not subtle racism to slip in? Because we're like, oh my God, progress. What's actually going on with these fandoms? And also, especially when like stan culture is at an all-time high. People feel the need to like defend and protect their faves, I think is also an element here that we need to look into. Okay, let's talk about like specifically racism and misogyny within pop girly culture. With stan culture growing and like intensity, and I think like TikTok has like a huge part to play in this, right? It's so easy to like find yourself amongst just your fandom when you're in TikTok. And for example, when I open TikTok, it's mostly Taylor Swift, like that's just, and like queer stuff, right? And like political stuff. But that's because I'm like liking, my algorithm serves me that content. So I think because of TikTok and the fierceness of the algorithm, we're seeing only like mostly content from our own fandom. And we think that these opinions are normal, and it also makes people like much more passionate because like you're only seeing people that agree with you. I think algorithms only intensify stan culture. And I do feel like celebrity culture now is like either you are like having parasocial relationships, and not always, like there's obviously normal people here, but it feels like there's 2 big groups. People who are like having parasocial relationships with their like fave pop star and like feeling the need to defend them over everything. And like because of social media, we feel like we know them so much. Or it's people that are like disengaged completely, that like don't like worship celebrities, you know, like this whole thing being like, okay, let's unfollow like Kylie Jenner and like show her that she doesn't have like influence in the world. So it feels like 2 very separate and distinct behaviors towards celebrities, which I don't think is ever healthy when there's like only 2 ways to like approach something, and both are very extreme. And like honestly, I totally support disengaging from celebrities. I think that makes more sense than having like, I don't know, this need to like defend someone with your life. And like my question is there a resurgence of misogyny here, or has it always existed and the pop stars have just been doing a good job of like pretending like it doesn't exist? It feels like there's a resurgence of racism and like pitting pop girls against each other in order for someone's like fave to win. Or has that always existed and we just thought we were like having progress over the last like 10 to 15 years? And what's interesting is I thought that kind of like ended, and not that like Taylor Swift like has influence over like every stan of every pop star, but like literally, and You Need to Calm Down, like she like hugs Katy Perry at the end, and rumors say that they kissed, but whatever. She literally says, we see you over there on the internet comparing all the girls that are killing it, but we figured you out. We all know now. We all got crowns. You need to calm down. Like, I thought we were like in this culture where we like knew not to pit women against each other, but apparently not. I mean, she like in this music video has like all these drag queens personifying these main pop girlies, like Beyonce is there. Like, I really felt like we were in a culture where like even pop stars were saying like, don't pit me against her. It felt like women were rejecting this like thing that men and the media were doing to pit women against each other. But it seems like now it's girls themselves doing it, which like we need to move past and reject this finally. And also what's interesting is that even when the pop stars themselves, the celebrities themselves, go out of their way to be like, stop doing this, their fans like don't listen to them. It's wild to me. Like Beyonce and Taylor literally support each other physically by going to each other's documentary premieres. We'll go into the Cowboy Carter drama, of course, but like after Cowboy Carter won and there was a bunch of like Billy fans being like so fucking pissed about it and racist about it, Phineas posted, quote, I don't want to see anyone with a photo of me or Billy as their profile picture getting in fights with other artists' fans in comment sections. Be at peace. And then it like still continued. It's like, wouldn't you listen to like your fave? It's almost like fan culture is more reliant on like what the rest of the fans are doing rather than like listening to the artists themselves, which is just wild. It's like Swifties being homophobic. And it's like your fave is not homophobic, I think. Just kidding. And then my other question is, for these celebrities and pop stars who have been around for so long and they have like new generations of fans, like Taylor Swift has young fans who were not born when 1989 came out that are actively on the internet, or like weren't born when Red came out and like are actively in my comment section. Do these younger fans maybe like know the culture of award shows? Because before social media, that's all we kind of had in order to like kind of get access to like our favorite artists. And maybe we just knew more about what like award shows mean, because it's not a competition in popularity. Most of these, except for like I think Billboard awards, I'll have to check, like Grammys and stuff, is not popularity. It is based off of like the music itself and not like the charts. The larger question that I think I've been asking this entire time is like, are these fans as feminist and not racist as their faves? And do these celebrities need to do more in order to make sure their fans stay in line? I think the answer is yes. There's a false assumption that young girls or the fans of liberal white pop stars would be liberal and feminist. And I think I've made that mistake. Like, is this a phenomenon or is it just women? Like white women, according to CAWP 2024, a majority of white women continue to support Trump in all 2024 election surveys. And these pop stars, these white pop stars, they have white women fans. So the math is not mathing that like the phenomenon is actually pushing feminism, because according to stats, we got a lot of conservatives in here. And so it's like, is it enough for pop stars just to be like women, or do we need to be like feminism? You know, it's not enough just to be like women if there's not like a message behind it. And what's interesting is like, I do think these celebrities are pushing these messages in their music and their music video and who they hang out with and what they say. But like, is it enough, or are these fans just kind of dumb? Like, how did people watch Barbie and like vote for Trump? They were like, yay, I love Barbie. And then they vote for Trump. Like, it's not translating. The Music Business Association says that more females say they enjoy pop and country. And we'll talk about how pop and country, sometimes we assume that like pop music is kind of its own thing, or maybe just the gays in pop music. But like pop and country share a lot of the same fans. So we're seeing this like racist culture of country fans bleed into pop music, which is worrisome. And I'm not saying you shouldn't like country. I like certain country. But it's important to point out the racism in like pop country today. If these white girls are like consuming both country and pop, It's not like they're all suddenly just so cool with black people. And also we'll go into like CMA's racism very soon. Okay, let's talk about the Cowboy Carter controversy, right? Until 2025, as we all know, Beyonce had never won Album of the Year at the Grammys, even though she has the most Grammys of literally all time. Album of the Year is the most coveted award at the Grammys. So it's not like she's just like not been awarded and then like all of a sudden she like quote bought her way to this award. Like, she has the most Grammys of all time and not one had been Album of the Year until this year, which is crazy. And then when she did, which was deserved, and a lot of people say Cowboy Carter wasn't her best album. I personally agree. I think Lemonade was her best album. But just because Lemonade didn't win doesn't mean I think Cowboy Carter should not win. I think both should have won, but I think Lemonade was better. And I think she deserved to win Album of the Year with Lemonade as well. And some other ones, right? Pop Girlie fans were fucking pissed to an extent that honestly I was really shocked by. And I know there's a lot of Beyonce fans that were not shocked by this, which like totally makes sense. It's a good reminder for us, and I was like good reminder for me to be like, oh my God, like these Pop Girlie fans are fucking racist. Like they can be racist. You don't have to like look like a fucking Trump supporter to be fucking racist. And honestly, specifically Billie Eilish fans, a lot of people were pissed. They're like, she got snubbed, which I do think she got snubbed. But other people won awards that she obviously didn't get. But for some reason, Beyonce was the target. Peculiar. And I'm a Billie Eilish fan too, but it's not like I like solely stan her. But like people who are saying that, oh, it's just like ridiculous. It's like, oh my God, you guys would have never survived being a Taylor Swift fan during Reputation. Like Reputation wasn't even nominated for fucking shit. So it's like your faves are gonna go through periods of time where they're not like being awarded in the way that you think that they should be. Now, when Taylor Swift didn't get nominated for anything for Reputation, was I like yelling and saying like, other singers didn't deserve it? No, it's not their fault. It's not someone else's fault that they're successful. And it's funny because Taylor Swift fans say this all the time now. And then they don't, some of them did not bring that energy and were criticizing fucking Beyonce, being like, so pissed she's successful. And I'm like, it's so hypocritical. Oh my God. Billie has been very much awarded for a lot of the things that she's done. Definitely not this last album, and I think that's like ridiculous. But do I think it's Beyonce's fault? Fucking no. And I think Beyonce deserved Album of the Year. And I think, hot take, that when Billie was like crying when Beyonce won, we have no idea why she was crying. She could have been crying because she lost. She also could have been crying because she was so happy for Beyonce, which everyone, like Beyonce is an artist's favorite artist. If Billie's actually pissed at Beyonce, I think that's fucking insane. I don't think that that's true. Like fans will make up theories to make it make sense, to make their own behavior make sense. And what's interesting about the whole Billie fan reaction, and like I was shocked that it was Billie fans. I was like, wait, you guys know that Billie's queer. They know that she's queer, and maybe a lot of these fans are queer too. I'm assuming that they are. They all expose their racism at the same time. And it's just it's a stark reminder to us that being LGBTQ does not mean you can't be racist as fuck. And it's a reminder that like many gay people are racist. And it doesn't even make any sense to me how you can be gay and racist, because like you are part of an identity that's literally so marginalized, but you can't recognize other marginalized groups. That's so fucking embarrassing, and someone should take your gay card. But like some of these racist posts for 3 days after Beyonce won, God, I was just so fucking shocked and pissed at the level of stupidity and not even trying to understand where people were coming from. I want to be so clear on this. If someone calls you racist, homophobic, or whatever, and they're part of that community, so like if you're being called racist by a black person, if you're being called homophobic by a queer person, if you're being called sexist by a woman, right? Before you say, how dare you call me that? It wasn't racist for that, blah, blah, blah. Wouldn't you think to yourself, like, holy shit, I don't want to be called racist? Think for a second, like, did you do something racist? you can like work on yourself. It doesn't mean you're canceled. Don't double down on shit though, because it only makes things worse. Just think for a second, like think about it for a second. Like your first reaction is to say that the person's being over dramatic. You are doubling down on your racism when you do that. Because people were so pissed that they were getting racist. They're like, oh my God, is it racist when I like wanted my fave to win? No, guys. Oh my God. Again, nuance and fucking common sense. Don't be fucking stupid right now. You know what we're saying. Not everyone that was upset that Billie lost is racist. The people that were saying she won because she cheated, she doesn't deserve it. I would have been happy. This is the thing that gets me in this comment. I would have been happy with any of the other women winning, but not Beyonce. The one black woman. You realize that looks so fucking racist. Not looks, but is. To be like any of the other white girls, I would have loved to win, but the black girl. You look like a fucking idiot when you say that. A racist idiot. And you are one. If you really think that. Because like, where did this hate come from? I think a lot of it is, first of all, racism, but recycled down from country music, because pop music shares a lot of country music fans. Just some of these other things that I heard, like Cowboy Carter was a bad album. Who even listened to Cowboy Carter? Oh my God, everyone. There's so much music out here. Just because you didn't hear it doesn't mean it's not popular. And also, this is the issue that I think social media has really created. Your opinion is not more valid than someone else's opinion on like taste, right? So something, just because you didn't like something doesn't mean it's objectively bad. The narcissism in which we view our own opinion, people can disagree with you. So if you think Cowboy Carter was a bad album, I don't think you're racist for not liking it. But to say it's objectively bad is just so wrong because you didn't like it. But obviously it is good because ABC News says Cowboy Carter was the #1 on Billboard's top country albums chart. So there's so many artists out there, just because you didn't hear it doesn't mean it wasn't popular. And because you've never heard of it is actually showing that you know no black people. People saying that she cheated is so ridiculous. And this same thing with like, right when a black woman succeeds at something, you assume it can't because of her talent. It's fucking Beyonce. These other things I heard was like, I saw this one specific post of this girl saying Taylor Swift could have written Texas Hold'em at 15, but Beyonce could never write Fresh Out the Slammer. It's just so crazy to say that shit. And it's like, you're just showing that you've never listened to like any of her songs, because Beyonce absolutely could and is such a good songwriter. And like, Beyonce has some of the most striking emotional music of all time. In the same way that Taylor Swift fans, we say all the time, like, oh, if you don't like Taylor Swift, it's because you're only listening to like her #1 hits. That's a really good reminder for you for Beyonce. So maybe you think you don't like Beyonce because you're only listening to Texas Hold'em. If you've only listened to Texas Hold'em, I don't want your opinion. And also, you can have an opinion without saying someone else's just is wrong. I've never seen this level of outrage over Album of the Year. And it's like right when a black woman wins. But not at any of the other artists that won any of the other awards that night that took one from Billie. But the black woman you're pissed at. It just exposed their real feelings, and it's fascinating. And also for Taylor Swift fans to do this, it's like, it is so clear that Taylor Swift is like a fan and a friend with Beyonce, and like, you guys are literally embarrassing us. I also saw a lot of people saying like, oh, how many songwriters that Beyonce had on Cowboy Carter means that she shouldn't have won. She's still the artist that sang it and collaborated with all of them. Bringing together a team doesn't mean you shouldn't win Album of the Year. It's so amazing when people write all of their songs from scratch. That doesn't mean that collaboration is inherently wrong and that should not be awarded, period. Like, she didn't win for Best Songwriter. She won for Album of the Year. Like, what are you guys not getting? And then, of course, we heard Cowboy Carter isn't country. Let's get into it. I need to take this off. This is too hot, this sweater I'm wearing. Oh, also, guys, I surprised my girlfriend for Valentine's Day with Cowboy Carter tickets. I mean, am I not literally Such a good girlfriend. She's never seen Beyonce live. I've never seen Beyonce live, and I'm so fucking excited. I spent too much money, but I'm very excited. Let's talk about like the strictness of genres and this whole idea that like Beyonce isn't country and all of this kind of stuff, right? So as we've said before, like popular country music today, especially like the ones that are celebrated at the CMA Awards, which are like white country artists, there's a deep history of racism within country music today, which isn't surprising, right? But also, and obviously conservatism. But what's ironic is like country takes a lot of inspiration from bluegrass and jazz, and like it's pretty much just shut Black people out of the industry. And it's crazy that anyone has said, like, first of all, Cowboy Carter just isn't country, when she went out of her way to like include collaborations with people that are seen as country in order to like make it known that she's like doing a country album, and yet that's not seen as country. Like she literally did a song with Dolly Parton, but that's like still not country, but it is when Dolly Parton does it. It's just the biggest thing here is race, and they can't explain it away with they can't explain it. She is literally from Houston, but Keith Urban is from Australia and he's country. The whole point is it doesn't matter where you're from, but if it did, Beyonce would still be a country artist. I don't know if many people know this, but I thought it was like obvious, like the CMAs are racist. So a lot of Billie fans, which is just so fucking ironic that they're like arguing in defense of the CMAs when you're a Billie fan who's like liberal and queer, and you're like, it just blows my mind, the mental gymnastics to like be able to be like racist but then like pro LGBTQ. I just can't understand that. But people are saying, yeah, Beyonce's album wasn't country because the CMAs didn't nominate it. It's like, yeah, the CMAs are racist. Let's talk about it. And they historically blacklist artists for doing anything political. The Dixie Chicks, and everyone should know this now if you're a Taylor Swift fan, which like I don't understand how any Swifties are like pissed at Beyonce, just given everything that Taylor Swift has said ever. But like Taylor Swift in the Miss Americana documentary literally talks about how she was trained by like growing up in country music to not say or do anything controversial and like political because of what happened to the Dixie Chicks, formerly known as the Dixie Chicks, now the Chicks. The Dixie Chicks, after George Bush like invaded Iraq, literally criticized him on stage, right? And after this happened, they were like pretty much blacklisted from the industry. Okay, people were burning their CDs. People were like not listening anymore. The next year at the CMAs, they were booed. Like when they were announced, like all this shit, it was fucking crazy, and their sales went down and all this stuff happened. They ended up having to be forced to apologize, and then later they rescinded their apology like years later. But like this set an example that like you will be torched if you do anything political, because country music is conservative and it's kind of like football. It's like, don't open your mouth, like just sing. There's real people that are behind this. It's not just art from no perspective. The perspective is the people that are singing it and making it. And then in 2016, the Chicks and Beyonce did a collaboration on stage at the CMAs. This was so fucking controversial because a Black woman was there, I guess. And by the way, Black people are a lot at the CMAs. So anyone that's like, oh my God, the CMAs aren't racist because there's Black singers there. And it's like, because they're not inherently pushing the boundaries. They're not putting their politics like into their music. And they're only allowed there because they're the good, obedient Black artists that won't push the envelope for like racial justice and like political issues. That's what the difference is. So fuck you if you're like, oh, but Black people are still at the CMAs, so it's not racist. It's like, oh my God, use your big brain. Use your big brain. By the way, this is my favorite cup. I'm sure I've showed this before, but it says, don't talk to me until I've had my abortion. The Chicks and Beyonce did this collaboration on stage at the CMAs in 2016. They faced backlash and criticism. Like, people were fucking pissed about this, you guys. And the Chicks literally said that after this performance, they, quote, were treated weird after this performance of Daddy Lessons. Like, the fact that it wasn't just Beyonce, the Chicks were like, yep, we were treated weird for even collaborating with Beyonce on stage, which is a country song. Daddy Lessons is a country song. Beyonce has been doing country before Cowboy Carter. And even if she hadn't, people are allowed to move into different genres. And we allow that for white artists, but not black artists. And like people that try to defend the CMAs or the CMAs themselves and defend the fact that Beyonce like is not a country artist, they'll say that they don't fit the genre. That's their excuse. Another excuse. When it's like, what is actually lying underneath all of this? The strictness of genres is so arbitrary, and it's just used in order to exclude marginalized identities. It's the same way that like pop girly fans excuse their ability to be like, oh, I hate Beyonce by just saying like, or she didn't deserve it by saying stuff like she's just not country, or she didn't deserve it because I didn't like it. And that's just arbitrary excuses for just being racist. And I honestly just wish they would just be straight out racist. So then we could like acknowledge, okay, you're racist, we don't listen to you anymore. But it's like this new wave of like silent racists that convince themselves that they're not and don't care about like being perceived as a good person. That's one of the biggest thing that I'm stuck on is like, don't people want to not be perceived as racist, homophobic, and sexist? These pop stans, white young girls, do they not care about being perceived as racist? The fans of these major pop stars don't care that their pop idols have different political opinions than them, but are still trying to protect them. And it's like this weird thing where it's like they are obsessed with their fave, but then like feel like, oh, okay, it's totally okay that I don't have it, that they have a different political opinion than me. It's like Swifties being like, oh, I don't care that Taylor Swift votes for Kamala Harris, I'm gonna vote for Trump, and like it's totally fine. Yeah, whatever, you shouldn't like change your political beliefs based off of like a singer, but if you're so obsessed about like protecting and like thinking about them all the time, and like you are having this like parasocial relationship with them, but then like you are so clearly racist when like they are not, there's a separation there. They convince themselves that they like have the same belief that their faves do, and I think it's kind of on celebrities to like call out their own fans and be more specific about like, you are not my fan if you're racist. And I think I kind of needed more from Billie after all of this, because it was a lot of Billie Eilish fans. But anyways, back to genre and country music. Country music and pop music, as we know, share a lot of fans, specifically white women. And the same fans that are saying Beyonce, Cowboy Carter isn't country are like the ones that love Taylor Swift and did not argue that 1989 is pop, guys. Taylor Swift completely changed genres, had never done pop before, and said, I'm going to do a pop album. And these fans, Swifties now, who are like, yes, of course, so valid, and I can't believe anyone was upset that she just changed genres, are the same people now that are saying, well, Beyonce isn't country. It's so hypocritical. I don't understand how people don't see it. We allow certain people to change genres, but certain people can't. And what's the biggest thing? The certain people that can't are the black ones. I really feel like all this Beyonce stuff and winning album of the year just really showed us what a lot of fans truly think and exposed a lot of racism and like misogyny within pop girly fandom, that like PR wise and marketing wise, these pop girlies are like feminist and pro LGBTQ and anti-racist and all this stuff, but it's like their fans are not reflecting that in their behavior. What's the point of having like Brat Summer and like, oh my god, yay women, but then it's like, fuck Beyonce? What? It's just not consistent energy. And I think it's also showing us that there's a lot of silent racists and a lot of silent Trump supporters. And it's the same way when we like, people are like, oh my god, I just found out that my fave influencer is a Trump supporter. And it's like, pretty young white girls can be Trump supporters too. It's so scary, but it's true. Even the ones that feel like they're like hip and stuff to the culture can be Trump supporters. Not me though. All right, hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I hope you have an amazing week. I got my merch. Subscribe on YouTube, subscribe on Spotify, subscribe to my Patreon, all the things. Let me know any ideas you have. I will try to incorporate them. Okay, love you guys. Have a great week.